Yeah. This is here we go again, another convocation. One of these convocations where they come and they talk to us, and they're going to talk about this, they're going to talk about that. Do those convocations ever really work? No. Really? And so I know I got some rowdy seniors over here, and that's all right. Yeah, man. Listen to me. Now, we're the seniors. No, are you guys the seniors? Who are you really? Seniors. Man, you all got me confused. Hey, you know what's going on, everybody? Listen. I want to tell you guys something. Hold on. I remember when I used to sit in seats just like the one I was sitting in, and I would hear convocations, and I would hear speakers, and I would hear people that would come and stand behind the podium and the pulpit, and they would talk about life and drugs and this and that, and I used to sit in those seats and be like, none of those things can ever happen to me. Never. Ever. That happens to other people. And they would stand and they would be kind of boring and they'd be kind of outdated and they wouldn't really relate to any of us because I used to sit in seats just like those and I'd be like, they have no idea about my home life. They have no idea about what I'm going through. They have no idea what life's like. They're out there in their own little world. They have no idea what it's like to be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 and deal with real life and real issues. I am Nathan Harmon and this is Your Life Speaks. This is an interactive convocation. I'm here to tell you something. For the next 45 minutes to an hour, if you will just give me your attention, I don't want you to think about the teachers behind you or the counselors, the principals. I don't want you to think about your friends next to you. I just challenge each and every single one of you. It's just you and me. And I won't bore you. And we're going to talk about life. And we're going to talk about things. And I always know that there's always the class clown and the joker. And I'm not afraid to go in toe-to-toe. We can clown and we can go back and forth. But the bad thing is I got the microphone. And I will win because I'm quick with it. I'm just like y'all. I'm living life. And so if you respect me, I'm going to respect you. But here we go. Watch this. I want every single one of you to do me a favor. I want all of you, and I know you're pretty interactive, to raise both of your hands up. Raise them both up. Every hand. Come on. Both hands. Both hands. Okay, put them down. Put them up. Put them down. That's right, y'all listen real good. Okay, here we go. Now watch. This is a very interactive convocation. I'm going to ask questions back and forth. First off, I want to ask a question. How many of us in this room come from a broken family? Your mom and your dad have been divorced. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Moms and dads have been divorced. Okay? Let me ask this question. How many of you don't have your mom or your dad in your life right now? You're being raised pretty much by a single parent. Raise your hand. Okay. See, I saw a lot of hands up. Let me tell you a little bit about my past real quick. When I was 12 and 13, how old are you guys? 13. How old are you guys? 15. Okay. I remember when I was your age, right? And I was 9, 10, 11, and 12. I was raised in a family with my mom, my dad, my sister, and me. It was a family of 4, and I was so naive and so kind of silly that I thought my life was perfect. My mom and my dad never fought in front of me. They never had an argument. I literally lived in this little bubble, and I thought the world was so simple and beautiful and easy, and I thought I had the perfect family. I had dreams and goals, and when I was your age and a little bit younger than you, I was motivated. I loved playing basketball. I loved playing soccer. I loved playing all kinds of sports. I got straight A's, a B, and a C every once in a while. I went out and got my own job when I was 13, 14 years old. I paid for my scooter. I was gonna do everything in my power to become successful in my life. I was driven. I was just motivated. See, my sister was 4 years older than me. And so I got to watch her kind of run the race a little farther ahead of me. So I had kind of that mile marker that I saw my sister doing things, and I wanted to follow in her steps. And my mom and my dad tried to raise us in a good way. But have we ever had, any of you guys, a moment, I call them moments of impact, where something drastic, tragic, emotional, something impactful happens, a conversation, a situation where you remember exactly what was going on. You remember what you were wearing. You remember what you were talking about. You remember the conversation. I call them moments of impact. How many of those have one of those moments where you remember something that happened in your life, where you remember everything? Raise your hand high. Raise your hand high. We have it. They're called moments of impact. And so here I am living in this bubble, right? And I think my life is just simple. I had good friends. I was getting good grades. You couldn't tell me I wasn't going to achieve the world. And when I was younger, my mom and my dad, we used to have these things called family meetings, right? And they set us down at this big wooden table in the kitchen. And my dad looked at my sister and looked at me and said, Nathan, Nikki, you need to understand something. Your mom and I are going to get a divorce. And my world went, woof. I didn't even know what that word meant. They never even fought in front of me. I thought I was in the perfect little bubble. And I didn't understand why. My dad had said, listen, and they stayed together for way longer than they wanted to, but they didn't want me and my sister to kind of get messed up because they knew when divorced parents and divorced families and single-parented kids that they struggle a little bit more in life, and they were trying to hold on. And they saw me with good grades. They saw me doing sports. They seemed like I had it all together on the surface, so they thought I was 12, 13, that now was the time. My sister was 16. You see, here's something in life that we need to understand. I don't care if you're 12, 13, 17, 18. Here's a fact of life that every single one of us, staff, teachers, principals, your life speaks included. There's a principle. Don't laugh, but I call it the fish principle. See, in middle school, you're like in a fish tank right now. Because, see, you only have so much boundaries. You can go so far, but your world seems a little bit smaller. But when you get to high school, your borders are going to increase. You're going to get your license. You're going to go to prom. You're going to get a curfew. You're going to get a job. You're going to have more freedoms. You're going to experience life a little bit more. Your world got bigger. Hopefully, a lot of us are going to college. And when you get to college or after high school, it's going to be like you're in Lake Michigan or a big lake or a bigger body of water, and you're growing up and the world is getting bigger and you have more influence and you can do more things in life. And then once you graduate or once you're totally done with school, you're kind of getting thrown into the ocean, and then it's one or two things are going to happen. You sink or you swim. You become the predator or you become the prey. You either live life and you achieve all that you have, or life's coming for you. And that's just a fact. And there's not one of us that can get away from it. Your world's going to get bigger. And so I didn't really realize that when I was a kid. I was kind of naive and young, and I was in my little bubble. And see, what my mom and my dad didn't know, that even though it looked like I had it all together, I was really like this young little boy that was on the shore of an ocean, and I didn't know how to swim. And as I went on with life without my mom and my dad actively, the waters got deeper and deeper, and I didn't know how to swim. I remember looking at my mom and my dad because I found out that they weren't perfect. And they had real issues, and they were real people, just like your parents are real issues and real people, just like you and I have real issues and real people. Life is hard. Life's a challenge. But I was so angry at my mom and my dad, and I was your guys' age, and I looked at my mom and my dad, and I said, I will never be like you. I will never, ever be like you, because I found out my mom and dad had a horrible pot problem. They smoked weed like crazy. They popped pills. They drank like fishes. See, I was never allowed to go into the room, and I thought that was normal. You just don't go into mom and dad's room. But that's where they did all the things that I shouldn't know about as a kid. That's where they did all their argument and fighting. I found out that my dad cheated on my mom multiple times as I got older. And I was so angry at him. And I remember looking dead in their face and said, I will never smoke a cigarette. I will never drink a beer. I will never smoke a joint. I will never pop a pill. I won't do anything. I'm going to be successful in spite of you, to prove to you that I can make it without you. And so here I was, 13, 14 years old, and my world was rocked. Who in here, let me ask this question. Who in here has a best friend, somebody that can tell everything to, the good, the bad, the ugly? You can confide everything in life to. Everything. That's good. Because let me tell you something, I had those exact same friends when I was in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in middle school. I had 3 friends that were rocks to me. They genuinely cared about me. I could tell them anything. But see, what happened was my sister, like I said, was like a mile marker. She was going ahead of me 4 years. So when I was an 8th grader, she was a senior. I got to watch her go through her high school days. I went to Marion High School down in Marion, Indiana, or up in Marion, Indiana. And so it was a bigger school. And I always had in my mind that high school was going to be those glory years where I was going to rip and run and have a good old time. I couldn't wait till I became a junior or a senior. And high school was going to get over and I was going to go to college. I just knew this, though. I wanted to leave a legacy behind. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be in all the varsity sports. I wanted people to know who I was. I wanted high school to be those glory years. And I went through my freshman year, right? And I was in all the Excel classes, and I played sports, and I did all these things. And as school was going on, I began to realize that those friends that I had weren't going to quite get me the status that I needed. They weren't going to quite get me the position. They weren't going to quite put me in the perspective of my peers that I wanted to be in that certain perspective. I wanted them to look at Nathan and think Nathan Harmon was one of the coolest kids ever to be in the school. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be known. And I made a judgment that the friends that I had, they were too good. See, I wanted to maintain a certain image. I wanted you and I, like if I went to school with you, to think of me a certain way. And I didn't think the friends that cared about me were going to get me there. And I made a very conscious decision after my freshman year to step away from good friends that cared about me and begin to figure out how I was going to get the status and the look in high school the way I wanted it. And I was willing to sacrifice good friends. And see, my world was getting bigger, and I didn't realize that it's going to keep getting bigger. And so I started hanging out with older kids. I was a sophomore. I started hanging out with seniors and juniors. And nothing wrong with being seniors and juniors and hanging out with the sophomores and the freshmen. But the kids that I were running and ripping and running it with were kids that were the popular kids. So I made a decision. I want to hang out with that person. Let me see if I can't become friends with that person. And I did it. I was real good at finding a way into the little circle. But see, I was about 60 pounds heavier than what I am right now. And I'm only 5'7". 5'6.5", but who counts? It's always better to round up. Who in here is taller than 5'7"? Raise your hand. I don't like any of you. I'm kidding. But I was a short kid. And I was heavy. And so those friends that I began to hang out with, those kids I began to surround myself with that didn't care about me, they didn't know me, they began to use me as their punching bag, their stepping stone. They would make fun of me and they would verbally abuse me. And they gave me a nickname called Nasty Nate, and I hated that nickname with everything in me. I had never before experienced like verbal abuse or a peer of mine talking down on me because I didn't look a certain way or I didn't talk a certain way or I didn't meet their perspective or their persona or what they think is cool or hip or what they think as a young boy or a young girl supposed to look like, and they would tear me down. I know we always hear sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Words hurt. Do they not? Words hurt. But I was willing to stay in an environment, a very unhealthy environment around those peers, because they had the image. They wore the mask, and the masks that they wore were the masks that I wanted to wear, because really we all just wear masks. We all just figure out how to put on and project, especially in this generation with all of our social media. We try to project a certain image. And they became so verbally abusive. I got to the point as my high school days went on that I couldn't even speak. I would mumble and I would grumble. I had no self-worth, self-esteem, self-value. I was beginning to believe exactly what they said about me, that I was just Nasty Nate. I began to believe their lie. Let me ask a question. Who in this school this year has saw one of your peers? You visually have witnessed somebody getting verbally abused and made fun of? Raise your hand. You visually have saw somebody getting verbally abused and made fun of. Awesome. Let me ask this question now. Who in this school, now I'm not asking this about you, and I don't need names. You saw somebody verbally abuse somebody before. That means you saw the person that was doing it, correct? That's logical. So let me ask this. A person that has been verbally abusive in this school this year, do you know somebody who has been verbally a bully or not physically, but verbally abusive in this school this year? Raise your hand. Are they in here right now? You have to point them out, but you know that you've witnessed somebody be a bully before. You've witnessed somebody verbally abuse somebody before, and they're in this room right now. Raise your hand high. I want to see those hands. Good. Now let me talk to whoever that is, and I don't need to know who you are by name, because all of your peers just raised their hands and they identified you. They're thinking about you right now, and I don't know where you are, young gun or hot shot, whoever you think you are. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how much of an image you want to portray. I'm going to talk to you and tell you exactly who you are. And every single one of those peers that raised their hands just now, they're thinking of you. And so just because I don't know who you are, they do. And I have the microphone, and I'm going to talk to you real quick because I know who you are. You come to school, and you want to pick on and step on the ones that don't meet your image. You want to bully and make fun of kids that don't look like you or don't talk like you. But see, I know who you really are. I know who you are when no one's around. I know who you are when it's just you and yourself and your thought process and your home life. I know who you are when you wake up and you roll out of bed and you stand in front of that mirror and you brush your gums. I know who you are. You're a young man or a young woman who does not like what they see in the mirror. You have no self-esteem. You have no self-value. You have no self-worth. You're broken inside. Maybe your home life's tore up. Maybe you don't know what it's like and you don't know how to express your anger or your issues, and you don't like what you see. You're trying to chase these images down. You don't think you're beautiful, so you masquerade and you put on your fake face and you put on your fake attitude and you come to school, but you have no self-worth, you have no self-value, and you struggle with life, so you wear a mask because you don't know how to express your pain and your anger, your frustration. So what you do is you come to school. You come to school and you find a group of friends, and those group of friends all are broken just like both of you. And you find kids that don't look like you, that don't talk like you, and you make fun of them because you need the laughs of those around you. You need the self-approval of those around you, because that's what feeds your self-esteem. That's what feeds your ego. That's what feeds that you think that you have value, because you don't know how to express the fact that you're broken and you're hurting and you need help. You've lost how to communicate with your counselors. You've lost how to communicate with your parents. You don't know how to express the issues that you're having in your life. You're not happy with yourself. And when you look in the mirror, you feel just as broken. But you come to school and you step on the neck of your peers. You step on the neck of those that care about you. This is a family. And you come here and you verbally abuse kids to make yourself feel better. That ain't it, man. And all those kids that just raised their hands, they were thinking about you. And every one of you that raised your hands, that was thinking about somebody, I promise you, guarantee it, it's 100% truth. I've talked over hundreds of thousands of kids. I deal with this all the time. I know the bully, whoever they are, they're just as broken, if not more broken, and have less value than what you feel like you even have. And they have to feed that issue off other people. So don't give them no time of day. Even some of them right now are angry. So when you see them out here making fun of other kids, or you see them out here clowning on somebody because they don't look or talk or meet a certain status quo, you just realize they've just exposed their hand. They're the one that's hurting. They're the weak one. They're the broken one, and they're the ones that needs help. So, bully, let me now talk to you this way. Stop doing what you're doing. There's a healthier way. You have value. You have worth. You're a beautiful individual on the inside. You don't have to maintain the image anymore. But what you need to do is you need to find the tools. You need to begin to be willing to take off the mask and reveal and be transparent with people around you. Because if you don't, you're just going to go through life and you're never going to be happy. There is a healthier way for you to express your issue than making fun of your peers. Because let me tell you what you're doing. And you think it's okay and you think it's funny. But see, I used to be one of those kids that was willing to put myself in an environment that was really unhealthy. I was verbally abused. Let me ask this question. Who in the school this year has heard somebody, not you, possibly you, but you've heard somebody talk about suicide and committing suicide? Raise your hand. You've heard somebody talk about committing suicide in the school. Raise your hand. Don't be afraid. Raise your hand. There's a lot of hands up. Let me ask this question. No, hold on. Hold those hands up again. Hold those hands up. You've heard somebody thinking about committing suicide. As your hands are raised up, every one of you men and women who have been verbally abusive, do you see these hands? These hands represent kids that you're stepping on their neck. And you think it's okay if one of them kill themselves? You know, in the state of Indiana, this year alone, the beginning of this school year to where we are right now, there are 7 students in the state of Indiana who started the school year with a heartbeat. You know where they are now? They're dead. D-E-A-D, dead. And one of their sole reasons when they did the studies and the research and they began to ask questions was because they were verbally abused and made fun of. And they were willing to take the step. 7 kids have ended their life this year because of verbal abuse. And you know what? They were all young men. It's been all young men. Not even the young ladies, the young men. And you think it's going to be okay, huh? You think it's all fun and games. Until that comes and touches your school. Until all of those hands, raise your hands up again if you've heard someone talk about committing suicide. Raise your hands. You think it's all fun and games until one of these people that they represent actually does it. And you know what's going to happen? You'll come in here and every single one of you will bawl, you will cry, you won't know what to do with life because it will have touched your life. These are real issues. It's not fun and games. And how do I know? Well, see, when I went through high school and I became so verbally abused, and as I continue to tell about my life and some of my issues and my struggles, I got to the point in the place when I was so broken. I was so wore down. I was so beat up. I remember I had got kicked out of my mom's house. I had gotten kicked out of my friend's house. I had got kicked out of so many houses because I started getting strung out on all kinds of things. And I didn't think my voice mattered. And I knew I had messed up so much. I ended up just climbing up on the step ladder in my sister's garage because no one cared about me. I thought I was so verbally abused. I began to believe the names and the things that the people were calling me. And I just took the rope. I was that close to jumping. I didn't. I was that close, though. But the reality of it is in the state of Indiana this year and all across the country, you guys are getting bolder. You think it's okay until someone actually loses their life. So let me talk to you now. I want to ask this question. In the school, have you saw one of your students, one of your friends, one of your peers self-harming and cutting themselves? Raise your hand. You saw it. You know that there's people in here that are self-harming and cutting themselves. Hands everywhere. I see it everywhere. Let me talk to every single one of you that raised your hands the first time when you were thinking about, you've heard somebody talking about committing suicide. And every single one of you now that are raising your hands, that you know somebody that's cutting themselves and harming themselves, you're representing and you're standing in proxy for one of those kids that I know is in this room right now. And let me talk to you. Don't you dare die. Don't you dare make the worst decision of your entire life. You are valuable and you are worth and you have so much potential. Inside of you is greatness. Inside of each and every one of you is something special and spectacular. There's gifts inside of you and dreams and goals and visions and businesses and careers that only you can achieve. And don't you dare rob this planet. Don't you rob me of something that's inside of you that's going to continue to help us. Don't rob me of something special that I get to watch and witness that your counselors and your teachers get to watch and witness, to see a student, a young man or a young woman that chased it down and overcame and achieved. And every single one of you, and it's not some cliche thing, there is greatness in every single one of you. Don't you dare die. Don't you believe the lie. Those words, those people that are verbally abusive are not true. You can't let them live rent-free up in your brain. What do you mean by that, Nathan? I mean, they're not paying you no rent to let your thoughts be consumed about the hurtful words. Because people that are hurtful want to hurt people and tear people down, because hurting people hurt people. So what they do is, like we just talked about, they have no value, they have no self-esteem, so they find the weak ones, they make fun of them, they get the laughs they need to feel themselves better, and they go on about their day. They go on about their day. They're not thinking about you anymore. But what happens to you and I who are verbally abused, it consumes us. We think about it all the time. Why does he say that about me? Why does she think that's who I am? Why do they talk so bad to me? That's what I mean. You can't let those thoughts live rent-free up in your brain. They're not paying you no money to be living in your brain. So when they say those hurtful words, every single one of you amazing young men and women have to know that they are just as broken, if not more broken, than who you are. So really don't even give them a time of the day. When you see that, you need to realize, man, you're just as weak as I. You're weak. It's the truth. Don't you dare die. And don't you cut yourself. Why are you cutting yourself? Do you understand the logic? You're taking something sharp and you're cutting your skin to bleed. When you think about it that practical, does it make sense? It's an epidemic that's sweeping this country right now. Self-harm and cutting. And I know why. There's a few reasons. Some of you don't know how to express your emotions. You don't know how to deal with pain and anger. You feel alone. And when you cut yourself, you have a feeling. It gives you emotion. That pain makes you feel like you're still alive. Another reason, you feel so alone, it gets attention. You get somebody to come up to you and say, why are you hurting yourself? Why are you cutting yourself? You're so much more valuable, and you have so much more worth and so much more beauty than having to cut yourself to get attention. You don't have to do something drastic and stupid to get somebody to recognize you. Because kids are really cutting themselves. Kids are really bullying. Kids really make fun. And I know our home lives can be bad, and there can be problems and issues. And we don't know how to express it, so even now we still wear our masks. Even now we still laugh, and we talk, and we joke, and we act like, whatever, man, you want to laugh at these kids for cutting themselves. You want to laugh at kids for bullying. Or maybe you're one of the ones that do that, and you don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to talk about it. You don't know how to handle things, so you joke and you laugh. You're beautiful. These are real issues. See, I got caught up in that circle, right? And it didn't just start with the bullying. My life continued to spiral. Because those same friends that were verbally abusive to me, they were partying and they were drinking on the weekends and they were having a good time here and they were having a good time then. And so I began to want to fit in the status quo. I found myself on the weekends having a beer as a sophomore, smoking a joint as a sophomore, hitting the bong as a sophomore. Because it seemed so innocent. I forgot about the young man that looked at my mom and my dad and said, I'm never going to be like you. I was willing to maintain the image and wear the mask. And see, here's the funny thing, and here's a truth, just like the fish mentality of your world getting bigger. Alcohol and drugs are like these two examples. See, when I started smoking weed and I started drinking, it was like I started this little fire. It was innocent, small fire. But see, here's the reality. Fire, how much wood will it burn? As much as you put in it. That fire will never be satisfied. You can feed it and it grows, and you'll feed it and it grows, and you feed it and it'll grow, and it'll get bigger and bigger, and it will never stay enough wood. No, it's going to just continue to burn it up. See, that's what drugs are like and alcohol is in your life. See, when you start it, you start something that's never going to be satisfied. It was innocent. See, it's also just like a cute little... See, I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was younger. That was one of my dreams when I was a young kid and had goals and dreams and aspirations. And so what I did is I wanted to be this marine biologist, and I loved studying the ocean, and I loved studying animals. I just loved animals. It was something that I just loved to do. I was kind of raised on a farm. I was kind of raised around horses my whole life. I just loved the beauty of animals. And so what I've also learned is that my days of beginning to party and to drink, when I look back, it was kind of like I had this cute little bear cub, right? You go to a zoo or you see it, if you saw a bear cub, it's innocent. It looks harmless. You can pet it and it'll growl at you a little bit, and you can like gag, goo it, you know what I mean? It's oh so cute. You take a picture of it, put it on Instagram. Look everybody, I saw a little bear cub, it's awesome. The reality of it is this. That little bear cub, that's what happened in my life. That little cub, that little thing called marijuana, that little thing called alcohol, it didn't stop growing. And so as I go on my sophomore, junior, senior year, that little bear cub wasn't a bear cub anymore. It was almost like a grizzly bear. And I couldn't just pet it and play with it and walk away. Because it had learned to get on its back two legs and roar and growl, and it was on a mission to devour me. Here I am as a junior, as a senior, right? My grades are now pretty much all D's and F's. I'm strung out. I'm a full-blown alcoholic by the time I'm 17 years old. And I remember when I used to sit in seats, right? I used to sit in seats just like you guys, and I would hear the speaker come up here and talk, and he would pour his heart out. Or they would come in, the DARE organization or the GREAT organization or some organization, and they would just pour their heart out to me, right? And they would just talk, and we would be sitting in the stands just like these, and we'd hear them speaking, and we would hear them talking. But all we would always think is, those things can never happen to us. I don't have a problem. You don't know me. I'm going to be me. I'm going to live my life. I got this, don't worry about it. And you blow them off. And you act like, they don't really know what's going on in life. But here I am as a junior and a senior, and man, I'm a full-blown drunk. Not only am I a drunk or a pothead now I'm snorting cocaine. Now I'm popping pills. Now I'm doing anything and everything that I can do to catch the high. My grades are bad. I'm losing it. And the reality of it is I would look back at that young boy, that young girl, when I was at this age right here, and I would say, how in the living heck did I get to be so far off the path? I had dreams, I had goals, I had aspirations. I was going to make something in my life. But here I sit as a junior, as a senior. I'm getting kicked out of school. I'm flunking life. Nobody can trust me. I have no motivation. I won't work. I won't do anything for myself. I'm making excuses about everything. And I'm just going through the motions because I began to believe the lie that I was just nasty Nate and I had no purpose or no place or no anywhere to go in life. Because see, choices, decisions matter. Every single one of you, every one of you are at a place in your life right now where every dream and goal that you have, you can achieve, you can touch it. But we live in a society. We live in a culture that's microwave. We want it now. We don't want to work for nothing. Maybe we don't even want to study hard for our tests. We just want to go on the internet and find the answers. Maybe we don't want to do anything else. Maybe we're looking for every shortcut. We're looking for every quick way out. We're looking for everything quick way out because we don't really care about how we get there. All we want to do is wear the mask and the image as I got an A or I'm doing good in school. But really you have no foundation because you're not working for nothing. And you're not living for nothing. You're not achieving nothing. Oh, but it looks good on the outside and it's a shiny, but everything that shines ain't pretty. See, here's our problem, and here is a key. If you want to take one principle, 1 point away from your life speaks, and what the crazy kid with the bun came and talked to you today, it's this. Stop living in the moment. And I know it's hard because you're in the moment. You're 17, you're 18, you're 13, you're 15. You're right now, you're in this world. You're in this zone. This is your reality. But the ones who become great, the ones who really achieve and touch the stars, and you may not even touch the one star you're going for, but you're going to touch a star. And the last time I realized, if you get it to a star, it's hot, it's bright, and it's shiny. As long as you get to the next level, that's what's important. But the only way you're going to get there is this way. You've got to get out of the moment. You've got to quit being microwave-minded. You've got to quit being on the outside looking so good. But you've got to work for it, man. Quit being moment-minded and watch this, become mission-minded. See, when you write your dream and your goals down, right? When you write the end game down. When you say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a professional football player. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a social worker. I want to be a teacher. I want to be an auto mechanic. I want to be a pilot. I want to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. I want to be a millionaire. I want to live good. I want nice things. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But you've got to then begin to realize every decision, every moment that you're going through right now has to line up with the mission. You have to become the person that asks yourself with every choice, should I go out and party tonight? Should I go out and do this tonight? Should I skip my assignment? Should I skip class? Should I do my homework? Should I watch this show when I know I got things going on and responsibilities? Should I pick up my room? Should I go to work? You have to bounce every single choice, every single decision off the mission. Because if it's not going to help you get to the mission, that's not the moment for you. Now, some of y'all maybe not want it that bad. You got to want this, man. Life ain't going to get you're not going to get handed life. But you can learn to enjoy. That's not me saying, listen, guys, Nathan just came in here and said, you can't have fun in life. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you chase down your dreams and your goals and you begin to line up your life and pattern after achieving the mission, the end game, you're going to come through so many amazing moments. You're going to be experiencing so many amazing things in life. You're going to learn to embrace the moments, and you will have amazing moments because life is about in the moments. Prom is a night of moments. When you came to high school, it was a night of moments. Graduation day, when you flip the tassel over and you fling it up, and you're like, I'm out of here, Hagerstown. I'm off to college. That's a moment. And you're going to experience amazing moments. But those moments will be so meaningful when you're pursuing the mission. When you're pursuing the greatness that you were born to be. See, I didn't have anybody to tell me any of this. Not like this. Not real. Because see, I'm not here talking at you. I'm just a big kid like y'all, man. I've just been living it and ripping and running it, and I made some really poor choices in life, and I'm not talking like somebody that I don't have any experience. I've lived it, and I'm crying out with everything inside of me that your life speaks, it screams, it shouts, but how's it going to speak? When you're born to when you die, what's that little line going to be? What was your life speaking about? Were there a whole bunch of dreams and goals and careers that you left? You left in the locker room because you were afraid to put them on and chase them down? Or are you going to say, you know what, I lived a life without regrets and I touched it all. I wanted it, so I went after it. I made good choices and good decisions. I didn't have nobody talk to me like this. Your life speaks. See, I'm 18 now, right? Not now, I'm older than that, but we're on a journey. I'm 18. I'm kicked out of school. My grades are bad. I'm strung out. And I don't want to be strung out. There's kids in here that are using drugs, that are popping pills, that are smoking spice, that maybe even messing around with heroin, maybe hitting the needle. It's being real. I'm real. Your life speaks. Don't sweep nothing under the rug. Let me ask this question. Who in this school knows somebody who's doing drugs right now? Raise your hand. You know somebody that's on drugs right now? Raise your hand. Yeah, I'm real, and we're real. Let me ask this question. No, not yet. I won't ask that one. There's kids and students in this room right now that are struggling with drugs and alcohol that don't want to continue to struggle. They don't know how to quit. Because if you step away, if you move away, you're going to have your friends and your peers, your circle of friends, they're going to clown on you, make fun of you, tear you down, belittle you, joke on you, jive on you. Because of what? You're trying to get right, man. You ain't going to quit smoking. You're not going to quit partying. You're going to come back to it. You can't change. And you're afraid to have a certain image, a certain perception, to be marked with some kind of labeling in the school of being that kid, because I don't want none of that. So what you're willing to do is to stay in the moment. You're willing to stay in the culture of where you're at and allow those around you to dictate what you want to do in life. Let me tell you something. I used to have a whole lot of people around me that I would call friends that loved to party and rip and run, and I refused to kind of step away because I didn't have the courage. I didn't know how to run at the roar. I didn't know how to punch fear in the face, and I was willing just to stay in my own lane and stay in that culture, and it was killing me. And even though I wanted to quit using drugs, I wanted to quit partying, I wanted to get back to that young man that I knew I was supposed to be. But I was afraid what every one of you would have thought of me. So I didn't. The irony of it is this. Years later now, those same friends that I was afraid what they were going to think about me, that same school that I was afraid of what they were going to say about me, I don't know about any of them. And I'm here living my life. See, you're in the moment. When you get mission-minded, forget about that moment. Begin to make new moments. Don't let this one epoch of time, don't begin to let this one moment, this one couple of years that you have, don't let other people make decisions for you, because those other people that are partying and ripping and running don't really care about you. How do I know? Get caught up in trouble, get arrested, go to prison, something bad happened to you, some tragedy. They're not going to be there, I promise. Maybe 1 in 20. What you do is you're sharing the same lifestyle. You're sharing the party. You're sharing the drug. You're sharing the high. That's your common denominator. Not that they care about you. Not that you're your best friend or they really know you like that. You share the high. So don't you dare let this high school and your life today and your future not become what it's supposed to be, because you're caught in this moment and you care so much about what everybody else thinks about. Who cares what they think about you? In a school like this with 300, 400, 500 people, who in here, let me ask this question, and I know I might get some jokers that aren't real, but who in here does not use drugs? Raise your hands. You don't use drugs. You don't drink. You don't use drugs. Raise your hand. Look at that. You're not alone. If you want to quit using drugs, there's a whole lot of hands that got raised. There's a whole lot of people in this school. Forget those ones that want to continue to waste their life away. Nobody told me anything like this. I'm a senior. I'm kicked out of school. I'm 18, 19. I'm stealing from my parents. I'm stealing from my friends. To the point where I was suicidal. What was I going to do? I went to the Army. 18, 19 years old, I go to the Army. Not because I wanted to. All I had left to do in life. I couldn't stay nowhere else. Couldn't trust me. I wouldn't trust me. I had became what the nickname was, nasty name. So I go to the Army. Fort Sill, Oklahoma is where I did basic training at. I was good. When I tested, I actually tested high enough to go into military intelligence. And that was exciting because I thought for sure I was on the fast track. Listen, I'm going to change my life. I've screwed up in the past. I'm going to get a fresh start. I'm going to go and be in military intelligence. I'm going to work my hardest to get into the CIA. That was always one of my dreams. But then they told me because I didn't graduate, I couldn't have that job. And I already had gotten my GED. And back then, I don't know if it's changed now, but back then, once you got your GED, you couldn't get your diploma. So I had to settle for fire support specialist. I was the guy that took the gun with the laser, and whatever the laser was on, big bombs blew it up. They always say, don't put the laser on your friend. Big bombs, boom. It's kind of cool. If you're a guy, big explosions are kind of cool. My favorite gun, man, what's your name, bro? What is it? Quentin. My favorite gun was this thing. I forget what it's called, actually. It was like an automatic grenade launcher, right? You had to sit down like this, and you held two buttons, and grenade chain went boom, 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 and it was grenades. I used to blow the smithereens out of junk cars in training. Side note. I'm thinking about that right now. It was pretty cool. But after basic training, and I graduated with honors, right? I was one of the best students, they would say. I got stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 101st Screaming Eagles, 3rd Brigade, Rakkasan. But I was only 5 hours from home, and so what I did is I would drive home every weekend, and I got around those exact same friends in that exact same environment because I was afraid to cut the tether. I was afraid to step away from the image when I was around the people that I knew. And I found myself smoking pot, and I found myself getting in trouble, and I failed drug tests, and I went back to the Army, and I failed the drug test. I got sentenced with an Article 15, 45 days restrictions, 45 days of extra duty. I thought it was only on the movies when they would make you cut grass with scissors, but no, it is real, and I was madder than a hornet. I'm 19, 20 years old, and they literally have me cutting the sidewalk with scissors. I was mad. I had a friend, not a friend, an associate. He had done 2 tours in Iraq already. I met him there at the 101st Screaming Eagles, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He was natively from the country Colombia. He was mad at the Army, so he was like, I'm out of here. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going back to Colombia. I loved to party, and I loved drugs still in that time. I said, that's kind of cool. Colombia was kind of known for cocaine, right? I was like, man, I'm going to go with you. Forget America. I'm out of here. We had a plan. This is how stupidity breeds stupidity. When you're drugging and you're doping and you're partying and you're not doing things proactively, you'll make some really dumb decisions. Here's one. We had a plan to drive to Florida. He had a buddy that had a boat, and he was going to take the boat to Cuba. From Cuba, he had arranged one of his other friends to have a plane fly us to Colombia, and I was going to live in Colombia for the rest of my life and go AWOL. Stupid! I got arrested on the way, thank goodness. I got arrested in Atlanta, Georgia, in Butts County. The first time I got arrested, my jumpsuit said Butts County on my back. I was embarrassed and scared. Here I am, 19 years old, and I'm in jail in Atlanta. The military show up to get me, and they come in BDUs, full body, just battle rattle. They're ready to rock and roll, and they handcuff me, and they bring me back to base. On the way back to base, though, they made sure they stopped at every gas station, every McDonald's, every stoplight. Let's get out and take a walk. So they could just walk me around so everybody would know that I was a deserter. And I always would look back and I would say, how did I get here? I used to be kids just like you. I ended up getting released from the Army after 15 to 18 months. I got an other than honorable discharge, which I don't know how because I deserved a dishonorable discharge. But I got an other than honorable discharge. It was like I was never there. It was pretty much like an IOU, get out of here. I started living with my grandpa. I'm 20 years old. I still struggle with drugs. Still have no purpose, no drive, no direction, nowhere going in life. I took $4,000 from him while he was having open heart surgery. He had the same name as me, so his checks matched my name, and I would just write his name and my name and went and cashed checks. At 21 years old, I was charged with 17 felony thefts and 17 felony forgeries. I was scared to death. My grandpa knew the prosecutor, so instead of getting what I deserved, I got a smack on the wrist. I gave up hard drugs then, though. I kind of got some sense, and I would still say, the cocaine and the pills, those are the hard drugs, right? I gave those up, but I still continue to smoke, and I still continue to drink. You see, life can get away from you if you don't continually to stay mission-minded. But see, I didn't learn there. I was 23 years old. For 2 years, I kind of maintained, right? I kind of kept it all together. But it was a Friday night, 2009, July 17th. Those moments we talk about, right, where you know everything that you're going through. You remember exactly what was happening to you. You remember the good, the bad. You remember everything. It's like a picture, a snapshot. I was living with my friend of mine. He owned a business. I had no responsibility. They let me just live with them. I would make a paycheck of anywhere from $400 to $700 a week. On Friday, I would cash it. On Monday, I would be broke because I blew it all on alcohol and weed. I'd get a $500 paycheck on Friday, and then Monday morning, I'm asking my coworkers for lunch money because I don't have any money. I had zero responsibility. I had no self-control. I did that for about 2 years. It was July 17, 2009, though, when everything else began to kind of change. See, what we used to do, Texas Hold'em in 2009, about 8 years ago, was really big and really booming and popular, and everyone wanted to go to Vegas and play the tournament, and everybody just wanted to play cards. It was really kind of sweeping America back then. So what we would do is every weekend we would go to a pool barn, and we would play cards, and we would get drunk and have a good old time. So it was a Friday. I cashed my check. I go to play cards with about a group of 40 or 50 of us. It's a big party. I bought a fifth of Crown Royal. I split it with my buddy there. I drank a half a fifth. When that was over, we decided to go to the bar. I was 23 now, so I was allowed to go to the bar legally. Even though I wasn't supposed to be there, because 3 months prior to this, I had just got a DUI. So I had no license, and I was on probation. And I wasn't supposed to be drinking, and I definitely wasn't supposed to be driving. And I wasn't supposed to be drinking at all, and I wasn't supposed to be driving. And you definitely shouldn't be drinking and driving. And so after we got done playing cards, and I had drank a half a fifth of Crown, my buddies and we were all going to the bar, and they said, "Nathan, are you driving?" And I said, "Oh, no, absolutely not. I don't have a license. I'm on probation. I'm not even supposed to be doing it. But you know what? What the heck? I don't care. Let's do it." I didn't drive, though. I went. I get to the bar. I proceed to have 13 shots of tequila. I ran up a tab of $86, $78. I'm not sure the exact number then. So I had drank and consumed a half a fifth of whiskey and 13 shots of tequila. I was drunk. See, a girl named Priscilla Owens, who had just moved from Alabama, she had 3 weeks previous to moved up to Indiana to Marion. She was from there when she was a kid. She was a little older than all of us. And she had friended a group of us. There was a group of about 16, a bunch of girls, a bunch of guys that every weekend we had no jobs. We had jobs, but we had no drive mission. We weren't going anywhere in life. We just kind of living in the moment. We were okay with just going through the motions and drinking and getting high, and that was living, right? She kind of friended a group of us. So what we would do every weekend is after we would go to the bars, somebody would leave early because the bars closed at 3. Somebody would leave early and go sort of bonfire at one of our buddies' houses, and we would just have the after party and carry the party over. Kind of like prom, after the after party, right? After your prom, a lot of you guys are going to go somewhere and have a good time and enjoy the moment. Priscilla shows up, and she was going to be my designated driver. She was the one that was supposed to take me to start the fire. She comes to get me. My friend Mike says, "Nathan, you're not driving, right?" I said, "Oh, no. I'm drunk." Who's ever heard, if you drink, don't drive, right? You've been taught that, right? Or maybe even we've been taught, give your keys to somebody else. If you're going to drink, who's heard that? Give your keys up. Don't have your keys. If you're going to drink, be responsible. I know my parents even tried to teach me that in high school because they knew I was drinking. They were trying to make sure I didn't die and to keep me alive. So they were like, "Nathan, if you're going to drink, don't drive. Give your keys to somebody. Take steps. Take measures to keep you safe." Mike said, "You're driving." I said, "Oh, no." I went to the bar, and I bought a case of Bud Light beer bottles. I walk out of the bar at 2 a.m., and we go to her Jeep Cherokee. I put the case of beer bottles in the back passenger seat. And the one thing that I won't ever know or have a reason is in the process of leaving the bar to getting to her car, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I was so drunk that I thought I was just Superman, or she asked. But somehow when I got into the car, I had the keys in my hand. And if I stand here right now, and we talk about moments, and if I close my eyes, and I look to my right, I have a moment like that. I remember everything. I remember her blonde hair. I remember her face. I remember her look. I remember my surroundings, and I remember her words, and her words were tree. Tree! And then it was black. And then I was in a helicopter. And I woke up with a woman with a mask over top of my face. And I was freaking out. I didn't know what was happening. I was being lifelined from Marion to Parkview, Indiana, and Fort Wayne. I wake up then because they blacked me out because I was scrambling. I was in constraints. And I wake up screaming because my ankle's throbbing. I have police officers over top of me, talking to me, asking me questions about Priscilla. Her name was Priscilla Owens. They were asking me question after question about who is she, where does she live, what's going on. And I didn't know any of that because we had just friended her a few weeks ago. I knew who she was. I knew her last name, but I didn't know where her address was. I knew what road she lived on, but I didn't know too much about her. And the problem was that her cell phone was locked and she didn't have her purse on her. So she was fighting for her life for 6 to 8 hours, and her family at home had no idea, but there was a young lady who was fighting to live. I'm on probation, and I was the one drinking and driving. I knew I was getting arrested. Something happened, though, and I don't know why. Maybe they didn't know how to charge me. Maybe they didn't know what to do. Who knows? But they let my mom take me home. I broke my ankle, and I remember crutching out. And they wouldn't tell me anything about Priscilla because why? Well, I wasn't family. And there's those whole laws about you can't release medical information. My mom in the car said, Nathan, you need to understand something. You need to realize that your life is probably going to forever change. And I was like, what, Mom? What's going on? I'm 23. I should be a senior in college or just graduating college, getting ready to begin my career in my personal ocean and chase down a family and dreams. I would think back when I was that little boy that had all this passion and intensity. Why, Mom? Well, see, my sister, Nikki, was a nurse. And the night when that happened, she got word that her baby brother was in an accident. And she knew the scoop of what happened. You see, what they said is that for some reason, this guy, when we hit the tree, they said that in the police report we were going 60 to 70 miles an hour. And there were no brake marks. That means I didn't slow down. Is it funny? It's funny. What's funny? It's funny that someone possibly could have died. It's funny that life is real. What's funny? What's your name? Ben. I want to talk to you after this, Ben. I don't want him in any trouble, but I want to talk to you after this. This is real life. And if you think things like this can't touch you, or maybe you just don't care. Maybe you don't know your real value, your real worth, or your real identity, your real who you are. Maybe you're caught up in a group of friends that really don't understand who you are, and you're maintaining the image, Ben. Hey, Ben, my mom said this. Here's what my sister told me. She said when the paramedics arrived on the scene, Ben, They reported there was only one body in the car, mine, because I was slunched over the steering wheel, Ben. They didn't know there was 2 people in the car, Ben. Because when I hit that tree going 60, Ben, for some reason this guy put on a seatbelt and she didn't. And when I impacted that tree, that case of beer bottles that was behind her pancaked her to the windshield, and she slid to the floorboard. And that's funny. She's real. Man, you got so much potential, so much worth, so much value. But you got to learn, if you don't take that mask off in life, you're never going to achieve what you're called to do, bro. They said she broke her neck, and I broke my ankle. And I was like, man, I can't believe any of that. No. I'm 23. These things don't happen to people like you and me. Because I remember sitting in these exact same seats. Like I've been telling you this the whole time. Hearing people talk. When they talk about people dying or people in serious accidents because of drinking and driving, you never think it can happen to you. You always think it happens to somebody else. And I was like, man, it was in the paper. That morning, that morning that I was in the accident, 2 serious accident, lifeline to Parkview, fighting for life. Nobody would tell me anything, and all I knew was this, is that, man, just let her live, let her live, let her live. It was like a movie. I knew if she lived or she died, it would probably be in the next morning's paper. At least she would either be fighting for her life or she would not be. And I didn't know what to do. And I was like, there's no way she can die. Let her live. I'm going to change. Now's my time. I've made too many mistakes. I get it. And the paper comes and it's just like a movie. The mailman comes driving down and I'm sitting on my cement. And he takes the paper and he flings it out the door. And it lands in front of me. I stayed up all night, and I grab it, and I roll it open, and the headline says, crash, victim, dies. At 23, I was responsible for taking the life and killing somebody. You never think it can happen to you. You guys got prom coming up soon. Some of you are drinking and drugging in here. The hands are raised. I saw them. See, we never think these things can happen to us. You never think prison will come calling? But it does, and it can. I got wind that her family, the Owens family, her mom and her sister, I was scared to death. They told my family that they wanted to contact me, and so they wanted me to call them. And I had heard that they weren't really mad. They just wanted to talk to me, and they wanted to forgive me, and that made 0 sense in America. That made 0 sense because I was guilty. I did it. And they said, Nathan, I want you to understand something. She was sober and you were drunk. It was her vehicle. She had the keys. 2 people were responsible, not just you, and there's no reason for 2 lives to be destroyed. But don't let my daughter die for nothing and try to make the world a better place. And I was like, whoa, what do you mean? My mom even told me, but she's even talked, Nathan, if somebody took you or your sister, I don't know if I could forgive them. Justice, judgment. And I can't say that I can't deny that if I knew my life, I knew my past, I deserved all of it. But they didn't. But the state of Indiana did. They didn't forgive me, and I was charged with reckless homicide. 23 years old, homicide. Let me ask this. Who in this school today knows that your grades are not where they're supposed to be? Raise your hand. You know that your grades, raise them high, it's okay, just you and me. Your grades are not where they're supposed to be. Okay, let me ask this question. Who knows in this school that you yourself have not been trying, and you've been kind of been that microwave person and been cutting corners and going through the motions? Raise your hand. You know that you've been going through the motions. It's okay. Raise your hands. We're all family. Okay. I refuse to believe that I had to become a product of my environment. I was going to prison. I got sentenced to 15 years. But I decided and determined that it was time to change. And I refuse, no matter how bad it was, how bad it's been, no matter how many poor choices I had made in the past, I believed and I stand on this principle that as long as you're breathing and there's a heartbeat in your chest, there is room for you to change and there is hope for your life. But you have to begin to start and to begin to change now. And so I went to prison and I said, you know what? I'm going to be different. And I'm not going to let my environment dictate who I am. I'm going to quit using excuses as my crutch, or because of my parents got divorced, or because I made too many poor choices, or that was labeled this or labeled that by somebody. I refuse to stop making excuses for my life and begin to take ownership of my life. And I was going to be different. And I started making good choices and good decisions one day at a time. I don't care how many of you have been struggling with drugs. I don't care how many of you have been on the brink of wanting to give up in life. You know that some of your grades are C's and D's and F's, and you know inside of you have A's and B's. You know that you've been cutting corners. You know you've been that microwave generation. You know you've been living in the moment but not living for the mission. You know that you've been the one that's been thinking of suicide before, or you've been cutting, or you've been doping. But today you're like, you know what? I realize that I have a hope and there's a change for me. You can do it. As long as you're determined today or whenever you make that switch and that flip to begin to chase down your dreams, you can. And I began to believe that even in prison. I stopped making excuses. I stopped looking for the handout. And I said I was going to work hard for it. Things happened. Doors opened. I found myself within 2 years of being incarcerated in Westville, Indiana. I found myself within 2 years leaving the prison in street clothes while still incarcerated and going to Ball State University, IUPUI, Brown Mackey. I went to youth gatherings. I went to grown folk gatherings. I went to masses of people and would talk about life and tell them to chase their dreams and their goals down and that you can overcome it. Good decisions have a good outcome. How do you change the way how do you chase your destiny down? You change the way you think. And I would pour my heart out to them while in prison, and they would say, the normal, Nathan, I hear you. How do I know all of that worked? How do I know what you're saying is going to actually work? It sounds good. It's real motivational, but how do I know? And I would say, listen to me. You don't even know, but right now you see me in street clothes. You have no idea that I'm in prison. I'm incarcerated. But I began to believe that the prison walls couldn't even keep me in. That when you're ready to change and to be different, you can overcome anything. And they would sit there because they had nothing they could say. Because I was letting my life speak. I was letting my life preach. You have to understand something in here, guys. And everything and all the topics that we've talked about, from drugs to alcohol to cutting to suicide to bullying, hands are going up at all kinds of times. I see the brokenness. I see tears. I know that I'm talking to people that have been cutting. I know I'm talking to the certain ones that have been thinking of suicide, the ones who have been using drugs and popping pills that don't want to. But I can tell you're by your friends to your left and your right, and you're trying to wear your mask. Get out your mask. Throw it away. Be you. You're beautiful. You're spectacular. There's things inside of you. Who cares what they think about you in this school? Listen. And I mean no disrespect to the staff, no disrespect to the principals, no disrespect to me, no disrespect to your life speaks. It's just you and me. I mean no disrespect to your best friends. There's not one single person in this room, hear me, there's not one single person in this room that can stop you, that can keep you from chasing down every dream. I don't care how big it is, chasing down every obstacle. I don't care how difficult it seems. There's not one person that can stop you from attaining whatever it is in this life you want to do. There will be one person and one person only. It's the man or the woman when you roll out of bed and you stand in front of that mirror. You are the only one that can keep you. Nobody can stop you. If you want the world, go get it. Figure out what your dream is and passionately pursue it. Make that your mission in life and don't let nobody get in your way. Your life speaks. This is a bold question. And it takes a lot of bravery. I saw hands. I saw hands of people being in proxy. I want to ask this question today. You used to be in the past. You know in the past you've been the bully. You've known in the past you've made fun of kids and you've verbally abused kids and you stepped on your peers' necks. And you're probably some of the responsible ones that have caused some of these kids to think about suicide. But today you realize you don't want to do that kid anymore. Raise your hand right now. You're done bullying. You've realized the value of people. Raise your hand. Don't be afraid. Raise your hand. Right? That's awesome. You're not alone. Raise your hand high. You know you've been a bully. You know you've made poor choices, poor decisions, and you want to be different. I see hands. I see these half hands all over the place. That's awesome. That's awesome. Let me ask this question. This is a tough one. You've been struggling using drugs and you want to quit, and today's your day. Raise your hand. You won't be in trouble. All those hands up, right? I know people are using drugs in here. This is your moment to punch fear in the face right now. You're not going to be in trouble by the staff. You struggle with drugs and you want out. Raise your hand now. Okay. Smaller group. Watch this. I know they're in here. You're afraid of what the peers next to you are going to think. You're afraid, are they really not going to get in trouble? Maybe if I raise my hand, they're going to come raid my locker, raid my bag, find a sack, find a bag. I get it. But let me tell you all something. A lot of you right now actually are believing that you can change. I see it in your eyes. You've been in a room with me for an hour and a half, and you haven't hardly said a word. You haven't been disrespectful for the most part. And Ben, I don't even blame you, man. I want to talk to you after this. It's 101, you and me, and talk about life, bro. But you've sat here for an hour and a half and listened to every word. Pins could have dropped. Right here with me, it's you and me, we're on a journey. You're beginning to believe that your life speaks. You're beginning to believe that you can stop cutting. But I got to be honest, and I don't pull no punches. This isn't enough. Because when you leave here and you go back to your school and you go back to your class, life's going to be there. And there's going to be some of you that'll still go back to your bullying mentality, but now that you know when you do it, you're the weak, and they all know that you are, so you might as well stop it. But you're going to be faced with tough issues. You have a home life, and I don't have the answer for the home life. I know it can be tough when your mom and your dad's not there. I know it can be tough when they're not helping you and they're pulling you down or they're struggling and you want to be different, but you don't know how to be different. I know, but what you can't do is you can't let that be your excuse anymore. Life's not fair. I know that, but you have to begin to believe that no matter what the circumstances are, that you can achieve. But this moment right here isn't enough. You're going to have to learn to become your greatest cheerleader, and I mean that. You're going to have to realize that if you want this dream, whatever it is, you're going to have to go get it. What did I have to do? I don't do anything if I don't practice what I preach. I have on my wall, on my mirror, that my wife has to see every single morning. Change the world. And every single day I look at that, and it reminds me who I am and what the mission is. Some of y'all that want to be doctors or scientists or social workers or athletes, whatever it is, or you want to quit using drugs, or you've been a cutter, or you've been suicidal, you need to literally, and I mean this, you need to write it on a piece of paper, put it on the mirror in your bathroom, and every single day you see it so you don't forget that you are somebody and you're going somewhere, and that somewhere is going to be great because you can do it and nobody can stop you. Dream big. Do me a favor. I want everyone to pull their phone out right now. Take your phone out. Take your phones out. If they're turned off, turn them on. Take them out. Take your phones out. Listen to me. I want everybody right now to take a picture of me on this stage right now. Just listen to me. Do it. Just take a picture. Right now. Take a picture. I'm not smiling. I'm just standing here. Make an ugly face. Somebody got that picture. I'm not. Take a picture. Now I want you to flip it around and take a picture of you. I'm serious. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Teachers are ducking out of the way. Listen to me. We're about done. You guys have been awesome. I mean, absolutely awesome. Here's what you do. That picture isn't for you to share or to post. That's not why I had you do it. It wasn't some copper plea to get you to take a picture of me. What it is that, what's the date today? April what? 26th? This is our third school in 4 days. We had one tomorrow. It's been wild. We've been 2 hours north, 2 hours south, 2 hours north. We're all over the place. The other day I forgot how old I was. I had to ask my wife. They asked me, I was like, for real, brain, I'm like a squirrel. When you leave here, and life smacks some of y'all in the face, right? What you just took on your phone, you need to remember the date. You remember the time that you were in this auditorium with all of your peers and your life speaks came to this place. And we poured our heart out to you, man, because I love every single one of you. If I could sit down in front of every single one of you and our team could just take you for an hour just to talk to you and to speak life to you and to pour into you, we would, because we care about every one of you. Don't you dare die. Don't you dare quit this fight. You're in a dog fight and you got to go after it with everything that you got in your life and your passion and your heart. And some of you are going to get weak, and some of you guys are eating. Quitting can be easy. Change can be hard. But what you just took a picture of was you took a picture of a dude with a shirt with anchors on. I guess I do love marine biology. I didn't know that. But with anchors on, with a crazy bun and boots on, that's standing here pleading with you. And it's a reminder to you. You took a selfie of you to remember this moment. Right now, you need to internalize what you're feeling right now, who you want to be. Maybe you even need to take a journal and take a note. I'm going to do this with my life, and I'm not going to forget. This is the moment that I'm going to chase after it. A lot of you guys that raised your hands, I know you got some counselors here. I got to meet them. You got teachers here. They care about you. They're surrounding you. They're not telling you to come out with your hands up. You're surrounded, but they're telling you to listen. You can do it. Some of you that have been struggling with drugs and you want to quit and you didn't have the courage today to raise your hand, I saw some. You need to talk to these counselors. You need to talk to these teachers. The ones who have had suicidal thoughts, you need to talk to somebody. If somebody's been talking to you about suicide, you seriously don't just blow them off, because what if they do it? You need to go let somebody know. Your staff, your teachers, they want to hear from you today. I don't care. Your home life's been bad. You don't have a lot going. You feel hopeless. Don't give up. What you see, we got a few minutes. What you see on